8 singles and 12 million copies sold. Not bad for what was meant to be your last ever record. Let's get into it. Now then guys, Quinnsdude here, back on the Rad Music Chat channel. Thank you so much for joining. As I always say very quickly, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and that will tell you whenever I upload new content. And if you enjoy this video, just down below is the thumbs up, please hit that. And any comments, good or bad. Today's album, we're jumping back in time to the tail end of the 90s, and we're also pulling an album from the 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die book. This album was released on May the 17th, 1999, and it is the 5th studio album from Moby, and it is called Play. As well as the music on Play being brilliant, there's also some really interesting facts attached to this album. One of them is the fact that it almost didn't get a release. Moby had was now labelless and was shopping round Play all around town and just got closed doors. Eventually Virgin's subsidiary V2 decided they would release it, and their aim was quite conservative considering what it went on to do. Their aim was to just basically sell 250,000 copies, which was as much as Moby's most successful previous record. The fact that the album went on to sell 40 times that amount is absolutely phenomenal. What a great story. And the A&R people at the labels that said no to it must have been absolutely gutted. Talk about slow burner. This album defines it. First week of release, it sold 6,000 copies. And then 10 months later, it was #1 in UK, France, Germany, Australia, and then loads more countries just kept adding to the list. Play eventually spent 5 weeks at the #1 in the UK album charts. It only reached 38 in the American album charts, but still managed to sell 2 million over there. Again, that harks back to you know, the old school record sales and what they used to equate to. Moby himself recalled in an interview in the years after Play's success that he said, I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but he said that 11 months after the album was released, it was selling 150,000 copies a week, every week. He was constantly on tour promoting the album. He was drunk all the time. He said it was a blur. Movie stars started showing up at his gigs. He was starting to get invited to all sorts of fancy highbrow parties. Journalists that wouldn't ever return his publicist's calls were now calling them to offer cover stories. One of my favourite facts about Play is the fact that it was the first ever album, I'm not even sure if there's been another one since, to have all of its 18 tracks licensed for advertisements, TV shows, movies, newsreels. Absolutely staggering. And that kind of meant that Moby was always in the public consciousness. The record itself is a very warm sounding album. Especially for an electronic music album. It uses a lot of vocal samples from old American gospel and folk, roots music, and draws really heavily from the field recordings of Alan Lomax. As is always the case, regular viewers will know that I feel commenting on the first track on an album is very important. This album could have started with really any of these tracks, but Honey's a good start. Not the most upbeat of track, not the most laid back, chilled track. It features a really cool vocal sample from a 1960s blues singer called Bessie Jones, and it is kind of got a bouncing piano riff and breakbeat techno beat to it. Track 2, Find My Baby, brilliant song, and is actually released as the last single all the way in November 2000, which, if you remember, the album was released in July of 99. And this was the 8th single. Track 3 on the album was also another single, Porcelain. Porcelain is by far the most popular track off Play, which is saying something. But if you look at the likes of Spotify, Porcelain has 226 million streams, and I mean the next closest to that is Natural Blues with 112 million streams. So it just shows you. Now Porcelain for me is aside from being just such a gorgeous, delicate track, that actually has some of the tracks on this album have Moby himself doing vocals. Porcelain is kind of one of those tracks that in a way perfectly sums up the album and Moby's approach, because previously he did good techno, then there was an album where he did sort of hardcore punk and metal, harking back to stuff that he grew up on, and then on Play it's all about mood. So there's nothing even particularly hugely with loads of layers, or most of the albums stick around the same tempo and you know, stay on the same sort of path and arrangement. But it's all about mood with Moby, you know. And Porcelain just has delicate piano, very simple piano riffs with very few notes that are so effective. False strings, synthesized strings, and his effect-laden vocals that sound like he's singing from underwater. Yeah, I mean, you will know Porcelain even if you don't think you do. Rounding out an absolutely amazing 1, 2, 3, 4 run on the album is Why Does My Heart Feel So Bad? This is arguably my favourite song. Again, just a really simple, delicate, like painfully pretty piano riff that kind of is the main feature of the song, and lovely sample vocals, which is the Banks Brothers' He'll Roll Your Burdens Away from 1963. This please, just if you do anything that I ask in this review, watch the video for this song, okay? It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And then on the album, sort of has peaks and troughs, but never to the point of where you will only listen to the certain tracks. I don't really see this as an album that's got anything as bad that you want to skip past it. But I would say there's maybe a slight dip in quality until you get to track 7, which is Body Rock, which is an absolutely awesome, just upbeat hip hop song. I love that track. And then you've got Natural Blues after that, which is great track, and then Machete, which is a really cool track that's kind of weird, stands out in the track listing of Play because it harks back to Moby's absolute, balls to the wall sort of techno, and but it's a really great track. It's just a bit weird in the sort of context of Play. Another couple of tracks that I think are really worth mentioning are the track Ever Loving, which, if I was to ever be in a privileged position enough to be landing on a different planet, this is the track that I want playing as we do. Gorgeous. And final track, My Weakness, which sounds like something Hans Zimmer would come up with. This is what a way to end the album. So there we go, guys. Moby's absolute monstrous 5th album, Play. If you're a fan, please let me know. Comments down below. If you agree or disagree with anything that I've said, as I always say, I encourage you. Let's discuss it. And yeah, that's it for this one. Stay rad.